Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. There's nothing that that really gets you into a fully immersive ride experience like that than a trademark copyright splash screen.
The best is it's all supposed to be POV shot, but they keep, because they don't have footage, so they keep cutting to just footage of the movie that just doesn't. It's like, well, that's not really a POV.
Aliens ride at the speed of fright.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Andrew.
Howdy, sir.
How are you?
I'm good.
Are you? Are you feeling strong?
Yeah. Looking good, feeling good.
I'm really glad to hear that. I'm really glad to hear that. It's been too long.
It has been.
As ever since we have last spoken.
Mm-hmm.
We are. Do you want to talk any about your new contact information before we jump in?
Are we gonna we're gonna start with that? Sure. Yeah. People can find me at Soda Creek Film on Twitter or Facebook, Soda Creek Film, or sodacreekfilm.com or Rash Pixel. And yeah.
It's like I like you ask, why are we gonna start with that?
Well, I never know. It's like you throw it out as a little surprise. I never know when to expect it. Is it going to be dessert this week, or is it going to be the appetizer?
I do like to shake it. I like to shake it up. Head to rashpixel.tv for all the Rash Pixel shows, and make sure you check out and subscribe to the show on iTunes. It really helps us if you like anything that we talk about, or if you don't and just like to pretend to like people because you like to spread good in the world. Leave a friendly rating and a nice comment. It helps other people discover the show. We're also on. It's your new favorite app, right? Stitcher, Smart Radio. Are you still using it?
I sure am.
I sure am.
I sure am. And how?
Stitcher Smart Radio. It's a smarter way to do internet radio, and you can download it from your favorite app store and find it there. And I haven't. Have you played around with SoundCloud at all?
I haven't.
Our other little experiment.
I haven't. That I didn't know if that was something I could do for my phone as well.
Oh yeah, there's an app. Oh, it's good.
It?
Yeah, it's a great app from the iPhone and iPad. I haven't played with anything else, but I've got the iPhone and it sends you notifications. It's really fancy. It's quite fancy.
Quite.
So I don't know. Guy's gonna call me, or not call me. He's gonna email me. He's been traveling. The SoundCloud guy is gonna call or email. Nobody calls anymore. He's going to tweet.
What's that?
He's going to tweet. He actually tweeted me to tell me that he was going to email me. I love how tweeting has become sort of like a voicemail for email.
I thought that's what texting was.
Oh, texting
I'm
last
so
year.
behind the
Please.
I'm so
Please.
2011.
You are so in the pocket of big cellular. That's what that means.
Oh, my.
You're still SMS? So old news.
Get with it.
Sucking on the teat of the man. That's probably. I think I may be mixing my metaphors. Shall we talk about some trailers that came out?
Well, first, there's one other place that people can find me.
Where's? Well, good Lord,
and that's
man.
that's on as Soda Creek Film on Flickchart. My new favorite place to waste my time.
That's true. I'm so glad you brought that up. Tell the good person what Flickchart is.
The good person listening to us.
Yeah.
Flickchart. If you're interested in putting together a list of all of your favorite movies, it's basically Face Smash for movies. That little web game that Mark Zuckerberg made back in his dorm. Where
that allows you to compare hot people.
Yeah, two hot people against each other. This is two movies, and it just goes on and on endlessly, and you just kind of keep ranking and re-ranking movies, and you build your favorite movie lists, and it's a great way to while away the time. So
it is quite. What are you up to now?
I am up to 2,158 movies that I've ranked 15,785 times. So
wow,
yeah, that's a lot.
Wow.
But if I'm like sitting at a red light, I do it. Or if I'm
at a red light. So do they have an app?
It's not really an app. It's just the mobile version. So is it
pretty good?
Yeah, it actually is great. All it is just the two movie posters and you just pick.
Oh, I would totally be doing this. I didn't know. I didn't even try it on my phone. I'm going to be doing this then. I'm going to be losing myself to it. That's great.
Like I have.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but it's a lot of fun, and you can, it's kind of tricky figuring out how to friend people, but we finally figured it out, and you can friend each other and compare lists and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So.
That's great.
Yes, another fun place to track us down.
Yeah. And it's a good place because we're starting to build our lists. And I think our next mission, I think, is to start doing more of the movies that are in our big top list. I think we're doing a pretty good job so far, but we need to start cross-populating our list. So let's talk trailers.
Let's talk trailers. So the first one, which I just finally looked at, was Wreck-It Ralph.
What do you think?
I think it looks great. It's I had no idea what this was, and you just told me to watch it, and I did, and it looks really fun. It looks like a fun Disney, like an animated Disney movie, and I don't know if is this falling into the canon of Disney's films, like it's animated classics.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know. I guess I don't know enough about it. I thought it was Pixar, all Pixar, which I guess is all.
It's Disney.
But there's no Pixar logo at all.
Nope.
Are they
it's a Disney movie.
Yeah. Isn't Pixar Disney movies? I mean, aren't they? Haven't they kind of moved?
No, but they're still separate
enterprises.
Enterprises, yeah. Pixar releases its own films, but as the head of Disney now, John Lasseter is kind of the executive producer and the man in charge
everything.
Of all the animated Disney, the regular Disney movies now as well. Because I mean, since they merged, they've still had like Bolt has been released and Tangled and Princess and the Frog. So they're still releasing their Disney animated films.
Well, this one, so you just watched it. This one I've had a couple days to sit on it, and I just, I grew up on Rampage, right? I mean, that was my Saturday morning thing, is to go play Rampage and, assorted other games, mostly like, now that's going to escape me. There's another one of the 4-player ones, where you were a wizard and an archer man. Come on.
I know which one.
You know what I'm talking about?
But, I'm blanking on it. It'll hit us.
Yeah. And so I would spend a ton of money. I would spend all my coins, all my money on that, and then when I would run out of money, I would go home and play like Bard's Tale on my Apple II. And so it was like my Saturday was just all day long. I was playing games. And so I grew up on these games that are really modern. So Wreck-It Ralph, the idea is that you're kind of the main character of a Rampage-style 8-bit game. And and then it is Monsters, Inc. for 80s video games. Right? It's just sort of, let's look at what's going on behind all these characters. They have lives. They live in therapy. They live inside this universe, and they can jump. They can, it looks like the big conceit is they can jump from game to game. So a character who doesn't like his life very much wants to strive for something greater. He jumps into a new modern action game. Mm-hmm. And that's the premise. And it looks good. It looks, it looks cute.
Yeah, it'll be a really fun movie.
Yeah. John C. Reilly and what's his name? Is it Jack McBrayer? What's his name?
Jack McBrayer.
Jack McBrayer are the voices, and it looks cute. It looks cute. I hope they don't mess it up. Don't mess it up.
Yes, don't mess it up, guys.
Please. When you're gonna play with stuff that's like close to my heart, they've got kind of a Zelda-ish looking thing in here. They've got a Metroid looking thing. They've got
Spike. They've got one of the Pac-Man ghosts.
Yeah, the Pac-Man ghost is really funny. They've got a zombie. I like the zombie bit.
Yeah. That's good. It's going to be a fun one.
Yeah. No, I like that one. So, okay. So that was the first one. You got to check out the Wreck-It Ralph trailer. What else did we want to talk about?
Did you want to talk about?
Yeah. What was the new Bill Murray?
Oh, yeah. The Hyde Park on Hudson, right?
I think that's a terrible name, but I'll have to see the movie first. It's tough to remember.
It is a terrible name. It is terrible.
It's a terrible name.
It's a title that screams art house film.
It does, but it's got Bill Murray in it, and he is playing Roosevelt, and he looks great. He looks great.
And he plays it so well.
He plays it so well. So in the 2.5 minute treat, gotta check out this trailer because this is going to be the movie to watch. I think he is so far. Every year there's that position where you get an actor who is old enough, played enough of sort of has been sort of pigeonholed in one particular style, and now he gets a chance to do a character piece. Mm-hmm. And Lost in Translation sucked.
What?
It did. And you know what else?
What?
Steve Zissou sucked.
Yeah, it did.
Dumb.
I agree with you on that. But I love Lost in Translation.
Oh, sucks. So and you know why? Because what's her name? Sofia Coppola bites. Can't stand her. You know what it was? I think it was Godfather 3. Just
did you in with her?
Watching, I just can't stand her mouth. I can't stand her mouth. The way I find this is, this is terrible because it's like, she's just hard to watch. She's hard to watch talk.
She has an awkward look to her, but she's not in Lost in Translation.
She directed it. Did she write it too?
Yes, she won an Oscar for it.
And that's the problem. That's the problem. I'm going to get in trouble again. Somebody's got to do another poster about how Pete makes them mad, and that's right. I can take it.
I don't know. Maybe you're in the same camp on this one. I don't know.
I hated that movie. So bored in that movie. But this is Bill Murray's shot. I think this is going to be the one people are going to say, oh, you know what? This is the old man character movie for this year, and I think Bill Murray's this is going to be the one to watch. If the movie is even middling to fair, Bill Murray's character is going to pull it off. And the
middling to fair.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even have to be a great movie. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have to be a great movie. Look at the Queen one that you hated so much.
Oh yeah, the Iron Lady.
Yeah. Okay, so then the other movie we want to talk about was the time travel one.
Yes.
This looks so good. What's it called?
It's called...
Don't you have it in your notes?
To refresh. Safety Not Guaranteed.
This looks fantastic.
It does. It really does. This is going to be a fun, just wacky indie movie.
What is the premise? Can you describe it?
Somebody puts a classified ad in the newspaper that basically it says, "Wanted, someone to go back in time with me. This is not a joke. You'll get paid after we get back. Must bring your own weapons. Safety not guaranteed. I have only done this once before."
I love that.
And so this person, three people kind of latch on and meet this guy who put this ad out, and they kind of start, going on this journey, and we're not really sure if it really is going to be a time travel story or if it's some crazy thing in this guy's head or what. But it's just this really quirky little story, and it sounds just fantastic.
It really does. It looks so good. And you know what else? This is what I was saying before we started. It's full of people who should be my best friends but don't know me yet. Like the character. This is a movie that was like made for me and my people. Like this is it. So this is a movie that's coming out very soon. It already came out. Actually, it opened in limited. No, tomorrow. Yeah. It's this week. This is June 8th is this movie hits. So absolutely check Safety Not Guaranteed out. The trailer looks terrific. We'll post it in the notes. Wreck-It Ralph hits November 2nd, and do you happen to have the Hyde?
No.
Let me see if I can track it down. It comes out very, very soon as well.
It looks like
I have it.
It just says 2012 here.
That's coming. It's coming in 2012. So check that out sometime in 2012 when that comes. Looks like it's going to be a good one.
Looks like it's December 7th.
Okay.
That's what it's like. So there you go.
Anything else strike you?
Nope.
That we haven't talked about. All right. I'm kind of excited to talk about this movie. This is part 4 of our Alien saga.
Alien Resurrection. A quirky little film. Oh.
How okay? So to start, how would you justify having this movie in a list on a show called Movies We Like? How would you start
I was
that?
thinking about that. I'm like, well, it kind of fits into that Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull camp. It just kind of gets dragged along by its by the rest of its group. But that being said, there are elements in this, and we'll talk about this in more depth. There are a lot of elements in this film that I think work really well, either work really well or is a really interesting concept, but it's just not pulled off right.
Okay.
So
no, I would actually totally. I think actually, I answered that as if I was sort of not supporting you, but in fact, I think that is the single problem with this film is execution.
Yeah.
And what I think is most fascinating, and I want to open with this passage. I'm going to read a whole passage because I had not read this passage until I watched this movie again, and then I discovered this passage. I realized it summarized my entire feeling about it. This is a passage. This was from an interview with Joss Whedon, the guy who wrote the script, and this is what he thought when asked in 2005 on the Wikipedia page about this film. It wasn't a question of doing everything differently, although they changed the ending. It was mostly a matter of doing everything wrong. They said the lines, mostly, but they said them all wrong. And they cast it wrong. And they designed it wrong. And they scored it wrong. They did everything wrong that they could possibly do. There's actually a fascinating lesson in filmmaking because everything that they did reflects back to the script or looks like something from the script. And people assume that if I hated it, then they had changed the script. But it wasn't so much that they changed the script. It's that they just executed it in such a ghastly fashion as to render it almost unwatchable. I would actually amend that and say unwatchable.
Strike almost.
Strike almost. Yeah. This is okay. So now your turn.
Okay. So that being said, not that I want to feel like I'm justifying Joss Whedon or anything, because actually I completely agree with his quote as well, except for the scoring. I actually think the score is actually fairly strong in this film, and I think it works well for the series. But I read one of his early scripts, and I didn't think it was that much better.
Right.
I mean, I know they changed it. I know they modified it. They got rid of the... they changed the ending a lot. The version I read, they crash land the ship on Earth with the newborn, and they go into a big chase and a big battle with the newborn up like on a cliff sort of thing. That wasn't that much better. A lot of the parts that feel like they're just not working for me all still are there. Yes, the casting was a problem, and I think exacerbated some of that, but I still think a lot of it did stem from the script, and I feel like I have problems with both the script and the direction and the casting and the shooting style.
And the effects and the unbelievably dumb character design or creature design.
Yeah.
But here's why I found myself not just not liking the movie but really insulted by it. It's because I really love the Aliens saga. Right? Mm-hmm. I love the universe that they've created. And I think one of the fundamental problems with this movie, and the reason I think that, when you look at the accolades that this movie has received, and it's not many, and most of the reviewers, were split. People either like this movie or they really didn't. You didn't have anybody who was just sort of overwhelmingly thrilled about it. Mm-hmm. And it certainly wasn't swayed. I think there were more people who didn't like it than did, but whatever. I think the people who liked it were the people who were not as in touch with the Aliens universe. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like,
Yeah, I think you're probably right.
this wasn't an aliens movie. What Jeunet did with this film is took some characters that had been in some creatures that had been in some other movie and put them in this movie and gave them sort of a sociology and turned them loose on a spaceship in a French interpretation of a creature film. This was not an alien movie. And if you get past that, if you go into it having never seen, or I should say, I wonder if this was the first alien movie you saw, if you would really like it.
Yeah. Well, there's something to be said for that. You know,
this is a movie where the monkey pooped in the lemonade. This is an example of that movie.
It is. This is a good example of that. Yeah. But you're right. Going in blind, if somebody watched this, I think they would find a totally different, a totally different take on the whole story, and they may not have any problem with any of it. But yeah, when it fits within the anthology of these 4 films, it really feels lacking, and it just feels like somebody was saying we've got to continue the series. Let's do something really quirky with it so that it feels different and fresh. And they just pushed it into a direction that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
It's interesting because David Giler actually he has a brief one tiny bit on the making of on the behind the scenes documentary on this one, and he basically said that he and Walter Hill were completely against any other Alien films after Alien 3 because they felt like they closed it out. There shouldn't be any more. And they expressed this to the studio, and the studio said, we're doing it anyway. And he said, fine, then you can have yours and we'll have ours. And that was it.
Wow.
Yeah, so I don't think he was very happy that they went forward into this.
Well, and that's why this movie is in sort of a strange place in the, I'm heavily using air quotes, saga, because we have the first 3 films, and honestly, in the last week since we talked about Alien 3, that movie has aged on me, even better. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because I'm watching it in direct contrast to Alien Resurrection, but I'm finding myself really liking Alien 3.
Yeah.
And how well I think it ends up fitting and brings new material to a story that actually feels consistent and sort of cogent, in every way that this one doesn't. But after Alien Resurrection, we go on to this dreadful Alien versus Predator kind of universe, and we're not going to do those movies. We're not going to talk about those movies. So why does this movie fit in our discussion and those movies don't? Is it strictly because of Sigourney Weaver?
I think it's strictly because this movie is considered part of the anthology. I mean, the Blu-ray set has it as these 4 films. Mm-hmm. It's the saga of Ripley and her journey and her battle with these aliens. And I think that's why it fits in, even though it does feel kind of awkwardly stuck on the end. That being said, one of the things that I found interesting talking last week is how Sigourney Weaver was so concerned going into Alien 3 about feeling that the Ripley character had been played out, wasn't really sure what else they could do with it. They did find a way to close that character, which worked really well for that film. But it did, leave in people's minds, well, what are they going to do now? And I can see her saying, in fact, I believe that she did say when they told her they wanted to do another one, she's like, no. We closed it. We worked very specifically to find a way to end the Ripley character so you could just leave it and you could go do whatever you wanted with it.
Okay, wait. We're going to act this out.
Okay.
You're going to be Sigourney Weaver and I'm going to be the studio.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Sigourney, hi. We're really excited about the latest in the franchise. We're very excited. We've got some great talent and we're going to bring back Ripley with cloning. And it's going to be directed by a French guy who doesn't really know much about monster movies. And so this is going to be great. Are you in?
Pay me $11 million.
See, that was it. How did you totally did that. That's what you, yes, we'll do that. We'll do that. Oh, okay. So now we have a movie. I think we know what the price is for that movie, for this. We know the price of honor.
Yeah.
Price of dignity.
And give me a co-producer credit.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what? This is not a movie. Why would she want her name?
But see, the thing I did like about it was that I can understand her looking at this and going, okay, they're doing something interesting with the Ripley character that I wasn't expecting. The idea that it's cloned, and it's in a weird way, it's like The Fly. You know, you've got this weird, like, genetic mashup between Ripley and the alien that was inside her, and creating this kind of funky Ripley that's in some ways almost more alien than human.
Yeah.
And for that aspect, I think it's really interesting. In fact, I think that specific aspect of the cloning is one of the two things that work for me in this film. And the scene when she goes into the room and she has the 8 tattooed on her arm. And when she goes into that room and she finds all of the previous 1 through 7 trials of making this Ripley clone, I think it's a very powerful scene. And I can only imagine how hard it is to walk into a room to see 7 other versions of yourself that were all failures. I think it's a fairly powerful scene. So I like that bit in the film.
Yeah. Okay. I like that bit too. Although I have, there's only, she just sort of traipsing around this spaceship. She looks more like Paul Stanley, this is, I don't know what was going on there with her leathers, but it's just had some issues with just the character. I felt like a little bit like they didn't quite go enough, and maybe it was just the way she executed this character that it ended up being a more complex character than I just didn't buy it. But beyond the fingernails, I didn't get it. She kept cutting her hand to get the blood. That was played out. So there were elements of it that I liked. But what I thought was most interesting about this was if you start, I don't know, you break down, one of the big problems I have with the movie is that they just threw in all of the things that sort of worked in all 3 of the other movies, right? Mm-hmm. You end up with this sort of military, paramilitary, kind of lost in space where we've got to get off the ship before it blows up. And we've got the ragtag group, which honestly, this ends up looking more like an early draft of Serenity in terms of the ragtag group of space jockeys. Yeah. And it's also shoehorned into this to this thing that it just doesn't play well from the very first scene, from the very first cut when he squishes the bug on the windshield. You just realize this is a tone that doesn't fit this film. No. There are elements, I think you're right, that are interesting, and the initial surgery, the initial extraction when they're pulling the thing, I find that just really horrifying, like in a cool way.
Yeah, when they're extracting
they're extracting the alien from her. And when you first recognize that, and to your point, I would say parenthetically, to your point, I think there are a number of sort of dramatic elements that I think are really interesting and poorly executed.
Oh, I agree.
Right? Because I like the idea of, I think the idea of resurrecting or cloning someone to get this symbiote out of them is really dark.
It is. It's dark. It's strong. It makes for good stuff. In other cases.
Right. It seems like something that's very cool. I like the idea of the genetic, because I think one of the things that this film sort of builds on, but not in a way that's overt enough to make the point, is the way the aliens the alien relationship, sort of genetic relationship, exists between whoever or whatever hosts it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we learned that in Alien 3. It had never been explored to any degree in Aliens or Alien. Right. And in this movie, there was a real opportunity, and I'm not sure that it was played out in any, or it was played out, but it was played out sort of so kind of out there, like, we see that Ripley has the dark fingernails, but it's not, that ends up not being a terribly interesting angle.
No, right.
So I don't know. I feel like this is a film that just, poops in the lemonade. So go ahead. What do you want to say?
Well, the other scene that I think works, and I actually enjoy it, is the scene when they're in the water. Despite the fact that it goes on so long that there's no way anyone could realistically be holding their breath.
Yeah.
That was just the one thing that I hadn't seen in any of the other films before that I thought was pretty creepy. Just the idea that, you're forced to swim through this flooded area of the ship, and then these aliens who have this natural ability to swim much better than you are pursuing you underwater.
Yeah.
I liked that scene as well. So there are some things like those bits that work. There are also, like you said, elements that come close to working. It's just so poorly executed, whether it's potentially interesting characters like Dr. what's his name? Dr. Gelderman. I'm going to butcher his name now.
Are you talking about Brad Dourif?
Yeah, Brad
Dr.
Dourif's character. Geddeman, Dr.
Yeah.
Geddeman. He's really, I mean, it's creepy. That sort of character that is, obsessed with the beauty of these mutated, genetic monsters, and is like almost in love with them to the point of, not really worrying about his own life. It's a fascinating character. It just doesn't work.
Dourif went to my high school.
Oh, did he really?
Mm-hmm. What do you think about that? Fountain Valley, Colorado Springs, Colorado, 1969.
Wow.
I fell in love with that guy in Dune.
Who was he in Dune? I can't remember who he was in Dune.
He was in. He's
been in
Peter De Vries.
Oh yes.
In Dune, he was Wormtongue. I mean, the guy's he's the creepy guy in everything, and that he played that really well. I mean, I think this is where he excels. Is he plays is it the id? It's that piece that it's that piece of the spirit of the film that no one admits they really have, right? I mean, this is the argument that this is the dark side of any of the arguments that go on in this movie, the philosophical arguments that go on in this movie, that we're breeding because of the beauty of these species, and look at the gift that Ripley ends up giving it, the ability to reproduce. Right. Without the eggs or the hosts.
Right.
And we should say Brad Dourif is just one of many characters that are typically or actors that are known for bringing really strong, interesting performances to the films that they take on. Yeah. Sigourney Weaver, obviously she's a known quantity. We know her, we love her, and she has done such great stuff with Alien and other work. Dan Hedaya is, we've already talked about.
I'm not arguing that
with you, Dan Hedaya. He's fantastic. We love Dan Hedaya. J.E. Freeman is, he and Brad Dourif together end up being a very interesting sort of partnership. Gary Dourdan, I think, as Christie, is that sort of dark, the dark sort of always armed kind of pilot who then went on to CSI. I love that guy. Right. And Perlman, come on.
Ron Perlman. And I mean, I even love Dominique Pinon, Winona Ryder, Michael Wincott.
No, I don't like Winona Ryder. I can't join you on that.
okay,
You're-
the right role, I enjoy.
What is
Winona.
that role? What is that role?
She's great in Heathers. She was great in
Christian Slater made her.
Scissorhands?
Christian Slater made her great in Heathers. Edward
Scissorhands,
yeah, no.
and The Age of Innocence. Those are the three that popped to my head.
Are you
but
kidding? Really?
there's not many, but I do
Who is
enjoy.
She's got to be. Who's she related to? She's got to be related to somebody.
And actually, I thought she was great in Black Swan. I thought the role she played in that of the former glory, I thought worked really well for her.
Beetlejuice. I'll give you Beetlejuice.
Yeah, there you go. See, she's got some stuff in there.
But how did she get an Academy Award nomination for Little Women? Are you kidding?
One person who was cast in this.
Are we back to this?
Perfectly. Is Leland Orser, who I'm sorry to say will forever be the guy who's perfect for somebody who has to have like a panic attack and scream.
Yeah, he's so great at every movie. He has that.
I know. He's like, okay, now hyperventilate and scream.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah. No, that's very true.
Oh, that poor guy.
He's fantastic.
So yeah, I mean, there's good talent in this, but I don't think, gosh, I other than Leland Orser, I don't feel like anyone was used appropriately.
Yes, that's totally it. So, yeah. No, it feels like everybody. It feels like everybody's just got. You know what? I'll tell you what this. I'll tell you what I walked away feeling. That you know how upset Fincher was with having to shoot every day with the next few pages of script, right? Not having a finished shooting script going into shooting, right? That, I think we learned from Alien 3 is a bad thing.
Yes.
And the result of that movie, I don't know how the assembly cut, they came back together and ended up making what I think is a great film. This movie had the shooting script, but it felt like it was shot page by page every day. Like the cast would walk on set, having been blindfolded the night before, and they just were traipsing around this set, saying lines as they were cues as they're called to them from off camera. That's what it felt like to me. It was just stumbling through this movie. I hate talking like this because, it's like, how easy is it to say, well, Pete, what have you done? Well, I have never made an Aliens movie, so I can't say I would do any better. But this movie, as a fan, I was left longing.
Well, I think, and they brought Jean-Pierre Jeunet in, who had done Amélie. No, he hadn't done Amélie,
but the script was finished. He had finished the script.
Delicatessen and The City of Lost Children with Marc Caro before this, and they wanted these guys to come out. Marc Caro didn't want to, but Jeunet, he actually met with the people in Hollywood, and he said, I don't know why you want me. I have no interest in making a Hollywood movie. And they said, perfect. That's what we want. And so it's almost like they kind of let him go at it, making this crazy, like, foreign version of the Alien films that, I don't know. It just, I mean, I love his other films, but this one just felt like the wrong man in the film, the wrong man running the show.
Yeah.
Square peg, round hole.
Yeah. I wonder if that's, you go back to the single, the butterfly flapping its wings. Mm-hmm. You wonder if it's that decision, that perfect, you'll be great. That actually ended up doing this.
Who was on board before him?
I was just going to say we should walk through, because I know there are a number of names that had been associated with this film that I think are really compelling.
Yeah, I don't know if any of them ever officially were on board, but just the idea that they were considered makes it seem like there were better options out there. The first one up was Danny Boyle, who was fresh off Trainspotting, who I think would have been great.
Oh, would have been great.
Yeah.
The film that never was.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Danny Boyle has obviously gone on to do some of my very favorite films.
Yeah.
and not to mention, Train Spotting, but A Life Less Ordinary, 28 Days Later, huge fan of 28 Days Later, and Slumdog Millionaire, of course.
Yeah, and even Sunshine and Millions, I think, are both great films.
Yeah.
So,
okay, so there was that. What else?
Peter Jackson was asked, although he said no. There's another great option. Bryan Singer was asked, except he was, I don't know if, I guess, he obviously said no, but I don't know what the story is with that one.
Yeah.
And then Jean-Pierre Jeunet.
Which is just bizarre.
Yeah.
Okay, so, we haven't really talked, I don't know, have we talked at length enough about the story to get into the creatures?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's aliens run amok.
Aliens run amok, but the genetic, this is the big twist, right? The genetic gift of Ripley as mother is the gift of reproduction. So now the queen, which is what had been harvested from Ripley, in the opening scene, is able, as a result of their genetic pairing, to not have to lay eggs, but can give birth.
Right.
Right. And so in the final act of the film, we are introduced to the offspring, which is the birth of the genetic munge of human and alien.
The newborn.
What do you think of the alien hybrid?
It is the most horrible, stupid, yet oddly sympathetic in a way that angers me. Creature. I get so pissed off. I feel so bad for this poor creature when it gets sucked out of a hole in the side of a spaceship the size of a quarter. Like that is one of the worst deaths. It is I just can't imagine like watching this thing getting sucked up. It's like it's one of the most horrible things ever. And it has those little puppy dog eyes. And it makes me so angry that they gave it puppy dog eyes.
and then made it deflate.
Oh, man.
When its skin finally pulls over its face and it gets sucked out of the thing, this will be a list, the movies we like list of the most horrifyingly insulting deaths of alien creatures in the vacuum of space, and there's only one thing on it, and it is this. This is the most horrifying and grotesque, even though I have no love for the creature at all. It is the dumbest looking creature. It is an insult to the aliens that have come before it, it was just like, they just sat around this table and said, that H.R. Geiger, I don't think he really had it.
Who needs him?
So instead we're going to just, this is what I like so much about it. And when I say like, again, with the air quotes, based on the designs about alien creatures in the film, creatures having, they wanted it to have both male and female genitalia. So it
no, not they. This was a specific request from the director.
From the director, who later thought it was. It ended up being too grotesque, and so they removed it during post-production. It was bad. Okay, but I do have one comment on the creatures, specifically related to CGI, that I thought was really interesting. I had not made the connection that Blue Sky had been hired to do, in the case of this series, the first full CG of, the original alien creature. And I thought the CG looked great.
Yeah. In
this movie. I thought they did a great job. Blue Sky, now is a full production house. Yeah. And they did, robots and all the Ice Age movies. And and what else? They did Rio, and so they've got some good titles under the belt now. But 10 years ago they did they were a commercial and effects house, and I thought the work on the film, the swimming aliens, I think they did the CG for the swimming aliens, and I think they looked great.
And on that, they also had Tom Woodruff Jr. in a suit underwater as well. So I mean, they had both going on under there.
And I think didn't Tom Woodruff Jr. wasn't he the puppy alien too that got sucked out the hole?
He was.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's too bad.
I know, poor Tom. He's gone. Just an interesting side note: Tom Woodruff Jr. and Alec Gillis, who their special effects company did the special effects for this film. They are, along with Sigourney Weaver, I guess the longest running people in the Alien saga, because they actually worked on Aliens with Stan Winston, and then they did the creature effects in Alien 3 and this. So they've been around for quite a while. So it's interesting that they didn't have a problem. I guess the paycheck was probably good, but making this newborn creature,
it's so bad.
Yeah.
It takes a bad movie and takes it to a whole new dark place. It's really terrible.
Yeah.
Okay, so this was also the first movie that was filmed in Los Angeles?
Yeah, all the rest were England, and then this one, maybe that was the problem. They
shot it in LA. That was the problem. You know what I think was really interesting about this? At the same time that this movie was filming, and I don't know if this is a sense of perspective, but the blockbusters that were shooting at the same time, Titanic, Starship Troopers, and the Lost World Jurassic Park, were all shooting at the same time. And you think, those are some really big properties.
Yeah.
To hit at the same time that this movie was being filmed, it really, to me, this movie, even Starship Troopers, was more fun than this one.
Yeah, yeah.
And
I think they were trying to do something heady, and it just was a failed attempt. So, what are you going to do?
But let's talk about box office.
This movie cost. Oh yeah. So it cost $60 million to make. It made domestically $47.8 million. Internationally, it did a lot better. It made $112.9, so almost $113 million internationally. So worldwide, $160.7.
Why do you think it did so much better internationally? Is that, did Jean-Pierre Jeunet really have that kind of a pull?
I don't know, but maybe it does have just a feel of that international weirdness. I don't know if that's fair to say. But Alien 3 also did better overseas, oddly enough.
Yeah.
So maybe it's the darkness. I think, Americans are notorious for not liking dark endings or weird endings. They want to see something that's a little friendlier.
I'm going to change the subject. Can I change the subject?
Yeah, I think we're done with the numbers.
No, I'm interested in your comments on Darius Khondji. And his work on this film, because he's somebody we've talked about at length before with regard to Panic Room and Seven, right? And obviously he had worked with Jeunet on Delicatessen and City of Lost Children. Just in general, the cinematography. How do you think it played? Was it redeeming to you at all in this movie?
I actually like it. I think the cinematography looks great. Something that was interesting that he worked really hard to do beforehand on the sets is they designed the lighting into the sets. So they didn't really, so you could almost just walk into the set and it was already lit. They didn't have to go in and hang lights or anything. If you notice when you watch the film, there's lots of like panels in the wall and interesting lattice works and things like that. And the lighting is coming from behind those in almost every setting. So essentially it was kind of pre-lit. And I actually really like the lighting and the look of this film. So, I do say that I mean, it's not his greatest film, but I do enjoy what he did with it.
Okay. All right.
You know,
you're the artiste.
you didn't like it, or
no, I just
don't care one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like I had that much skin in the game, but I did in so many of these other movies that we've talked about, and so, you know, when you look at a movie like this, it's just another film that is such a surprise, and I feel like I don't think, I mean, it's so frustrating when you look at the names on this list. Even, you know, I mean, Jeunet is terrific. The movies that he's done that are not this one, I really enjoy.
Yeah.
Written by Joss Whedon, for whom I have great affinity.
Yeah.
And the cast, I think, is stellar. The music by John Frizzell, the cinematography, Darius Khondji. I have such respect for everyone who that of the names that I recognize on this list, and the other work that they do. It is stunning to me how they came up with a movie like this.
I know.
This is the cinematic answer to groupthink. It's really a surprise.
Yeah. Yes, it kind of is an unfortunate end to the official anthology, I guess is what we're calling these 4 films.
Well, are we finished with these 4 films? Or is this it? Have we run out of run out of breath on this one? Do you have more to say?
I think so. I don't think I have anything more to say about this film.
How does it? So give me a reflection on now that because I mean, when's the last time you sat down and watched all 4 of these movies in a rather short period? What's your overall reflection?
It's been a while. It's been a while since I've done that, and it was nice to do again. It was nice to revisit the 4 films and see them again, and really get a sense for the place of how they all fit together and how they work. And much like after rewatching all the Indiana Jones films, and I made the comment how it felt like Raiders of the Lost Ark almost felt like a separate film from the other 3, which had a much campier feel. I think all 3 of them did. Raiders had a much more serious tone. In this one, the first 3 feel much more tied together, and the last one feels kind of like this little dangling. It's like, you know, the little poop dangling
into the
off of a cow's butt that just kind of dangles there for.
That's
just atrocious.
That's a bovine dingleberry.
Bovine dingleberry. That's what this film is. It's the bovine dingleberry of a prize cow, which is the series.
That was, I think I've sort of said this. That was the big lesson for me as well, which I thought was so interesting because I went into Alien 3 not remembering it that well, and what you said is I think spot on. That the first 3 movies, I think. Yeah, the first 2 movies, obviously, they feel like one film to me. Yeah. But the first 3 as a set hold up really well together.
Right.
I was very surprised that Alien 3 held up as well as it did with those other 2. And I think I think that's that was a great learning to me that each one of the first 3 movies brought fresh design, fresh scares, fresh horror, fresh writing. Everything about it brought something new. And I think Alien 4 just sort of slammed all of the great stuff that we got out of Alien 3, 2, and 1 together in a not very original way. So that was a really interesting learning to me. Does watching these all 3, does it give you any new perspective on what we're going to see this coming week in Prometheus?
I don't know. I mean, listening to Lindelof talking about it, it sounds like it's the same universe, but it's not really tied into this series, really. Mm-hmm. And so I'm really excited to see Prometheus. But I don't, other than looking for the things that tie into Prometheus from Alien, because you've seen the kind of that big curved C-shaped spaceship that the space jockey is in. That's in the trailer, and so I'm very curious to see how all of that fits together. But I don't really know what to expect. One thing, and actually I hadn't mentioned this, but I did end up in an Entertainment Weekly, or did I mention that? I can't remember.
You did mention. I don't think we read it.
No, but my comment was about the look of the film, and that's something I'm very curious to see what Ridley Scott does. And I may have talked about this on a previous episode, but what I said was let me read it. Though I'm excited about other movies this summer, it's Prometheus that tops my list. Alien changed both sci-fi and horror films forever, and I can't wait to see what Ridley Scott brings to the table. My only concern: the technology looks much fancier in 2023 to 2093, the years of Prometheus, than it does in 2122, Alien. I hope we get a plausible explanation for that. Obviously, film production technology has improved in 33 years, but George Lucas at least seemed to try to find a way to blend his two Star Wars trilogies together.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, to me, that's really going to be the weird thing about watching Prometheus is even just watching the trailer, it doesn't feel like it fits look-wise at all.
It doesn't, and it makes me think, and also, to your point, listening to Lindelof talk about it and listening to, Ridley Scott talk about it, I'm not sure they care.
Yeah, I get that impression as well.
I sort of get that impression. And the other thing that I think was really interesting, a point that's kind of lingered for me, is Lindelof saying, to this point about universe, I've been thinking a lot about universes, right? Mm-hmm. This whole idea of universes, and particularly when you look at, the Marvel universe, the Avengers universe that we're seeing so much of right now. Yeah. That article I talked about, we actually maybe didn't talk about it last week. The Quentin Tarantino universe.
Oh, yeah, we didn't.
We didn't really talk. We should talk about it. The whole concept. I had never made any of these connections, but fantastic piece on Reddit, where in which it is outlined a case that every Quentin Tarantino movie is part of what they're calling a film universe, and that they're all connected inside the same universe, including, all of the movies from Inglourious Bastards through Reservoir Dogs through, all the movies are connected in the same universe. And when you put them together in this argument, it starts to make a lot of sense in a brilliant way, not just, universe points, but cultural points that are tied together, like why violence is so prevalent in these other movies, and why film knowledge is so prevalent in these other movies, leading all the way back to this universe's Hitler being killed in a horrific way in a theater. Mm-hmm. It's a fascinating thing, and I think that I've been thinking a lot about universes and how Prometheus is part of this alien universe. But then Lindelof says, it is, we're not trying to make a prequel. We're trying to make a movie which, if we're lucky and this becomes, and we end up doing a sequel, that sequel will not get us any closer to Alien.
Yeah, right.
The sequel will not be Alien. So there's a whole new story that's a completely different forked line. And I think we end up, for those of us who for a long time have been looking to make direct connections to Alien, I think that might be sort of a fool's errand. Because I don't think they care, and I don't think they tried, and I think they have some interesting IP, and that's what they're going for. There was another one that I think is really interesting. That's back to James Cameron and the the universe that he's playing with Avatar,
right?
And all the movies coming now on are going to be in this Avatar universe, but not necessarily related to one another.
Which is really interesting. So it ties into almost like the whole idea of like the Dungeons and Dragons worlds, or all these sci-fi fantasy worlds, or even the video game universes where you can have these different games in the same land or same universe that like even Nintendo has some of those like weird little crossovers or whatever. But
well, and isn't that interesting? Because for so long we have looked at, and I'll use Game of Thrones as another example, or not even Game of Thrones, the Christopher Paolini books. The first movie, they did make a movie of Aragon, which was kind of a bastardization of the books, but the books of the Aragon series ended up being, I think, really a pretty good fantasy, mm-hmm. and so there's this I think we're fully in the era of the universe, where for the last 30 years of filmmaking, we've been talking strictly about sequels, on a linear timeline of dramatic events, right?
Mm-hmm.
And now we're starting to see, I don't know what it is. It's either our cultural concept of storytelling has evolved through film, or technology has evolved to allow us to take more, to sort of create more of these divergent kind of dramatic principles. But we're in this era where I think more and more writers and filmmakers are seeing that, we really have not fleshed out stories that allow us to leverage the coolness of the technology that we're creating, but don't have to rely necessarily on the same characters and the same restrictions that come from dramatic sequels and prequels. I think that's great.
It is very comic book superhero world, sort of. You're right when you said that. It is a very interesting way to make all of this, and it's interesting, and it's fun to stew on it, and I think there will be a lot of people coming after Prometheus opens. I think there will be a lot of people talking about it online, and how these worlds all kind of overlap and intertwine, yet are separate. So.
Well, and my point about Christopher Paolini, I didn't realize I didn't finish it, was that he came out in an interview saying something that I thought was really fascinating, which was he said, I spent, the last 15 years or something writing in this universe of these characters in this world. And he said, I'm deeply in love with it. And so, no, I probably won't write any more books about the protagonists of these books, but I absolutely will go back and write more in this universe. Because I have such a deep connection to it. I think that's a really interesting thing that we're seeing with filmmakers who are seeing that there's a lot of opportunity to explore more deeply.
Isn't that the same thing that J.K. Rowling said about the world of Harry Potter? I think she was going to revisit it, but not necessarily with those characters. So
I was introduced to something today that I've been absolutely obsessed with. I'm a big fan of the Harry Potter universe. I really enjoyed it. I read it all to my kids and do all the voices, and it's great fun. And there's one I would like to recommend, which is not film related, but if you know how to read, head to hpmore.com. It's Harry Potter and the Methods of Rationality. It's fan fiction. It's a serial with 85 chapters so far, in which Petunia marries a professor and Harry grew up reading science and science fiction. And it's all about what would it be like if Harry Potter was, somebody who was sort of raised by a professor and raised on logic, and it ends up being one of the most interesting kind of alternate reality Harry Potter reads that I'm totally obsessed with it.
Cool.
It's fantastic. And you can read it all online. It's by Alicia Yudkowsky. There's an audiobook project from some fans. There is you can download the book. There's an RSS feed for each chapter. You can RSS feed so you can be notified when the chapters come out. hpmore.com. It's a fantastic read.
Excellent.
Yeah. I don't have anything else to talk about.
Something we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
There's a few little fun alien side notes that.
You had your note. That's good.
We talked about talking about.
Yes, we did.
The first one, which I think everybody should force themselves to watch, and in fact, in some weird way, perhaps it will cleanse your palate after watching Alien Resurrection. I don't know, but go to YouTube and search for Aliens Ride at the Speed of Fright. It's equally terrible, but in some way it's kind of entertaining. This was one of those motion rides, kind of like Star Tours or one of those similar rides that for whatever weird reason opened up in the Fisherman's Wharf area in San Francisco in like 97, so around the time that Alien Resurrection was out. And it's pretty terrible, and it's really horrible filmmaking. And you obviously, unless you are moving your chair as you watch it. You're really not getting the full effect, but it's pretty bad. But it's, I don't know. Is this worse than Alien Resurrection? I don't know.
The fact that there is a question there is, I don't know. I mean, I think it's funny, because there are two pieces to this, and it's very important. There's the pre-ride, which you have to watch because the poor surviving soldier is played by Jeffrey Combs from who is the longtime Star Trek alien, and he's an actor. He's done voiceover work for just about everything, and he's this forlorn sort of early 20s soldier. The rest of his unit has been killed, and he's please don't make me go back there. Not only do they make him go back there, they make him drive the truck. It's the saddest thing ever. But then the second part, which you have to also watch, is the ride. I think the ride is better than Alien Resurrection. I'm not sure about the pre-ride.
If only because they're stealing footage from
aliens. Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, that's a little fun bit. What are the other ones? Oh, in the spirit of fun with the Alien movies, don't forget to check out Spaceballs again to watch the recreation of the chest burster scene, which is a fun bit that they got John Hurt back for. Not again.
That was the one. Didn't it come out and do a tap dance?
Yeah, hello, my baby.
Hello, my honey.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
Oh,
and then, gosh, what else was on that list?
I've got the list. So we had that. We also wanted to this was an interesting thing you point out, that the end credits of Aliens has a skittering sound setting up the idea of the face hugger on the ship. That was something that we had that I hadn't noticed.
Yeah, unless you stay at the end credits of Aliens, there's this little sound at the very end of the credits where you hear a facehugger skittering across the floor, which, I don't know if they ever specifically said it's for a sequel or if it's just for fun, but from that moment on, that was, fans had it in their heads that, oh, the Queen had laid an egg in the ship. So it set it up kind of nicely.
Yeah. Sid Mead, amazing designs in Aliens.
We never mentioned him, but Sid Mead did a lot of the great design work in Aliens, and he's a fantastic mind for the for this science fiction art, and the stuff that he did in Aliens, I think really like the spaceship designs and all that stuff really was stunning. I mean, he also did Blade Runner. He did Star Trek, the motion picture. The list goes on and on. Some of the greatest stuff. I mean, just fantastic work. I've always loved his stuff.
Yeah.
So we forgot to mention him.
And finally, Bob Burns.
Yeah, what a strange story this guy has. He's I can't remember how it happened, but he basically was a collector, a fan who would just go to these auctions that studios would have and just collect things. His collection got so big that studios started calling him up saying, hey, we're going to be dumping all this stuff. Do you want to come pick it up? And he's like, sure. To the point where they were bringing semis full of stuff to his house. And he had to build this huge addition to the back of his house, like a barn, to store all this stuff. And he has original Alien costumes. He has the original Queen from Aliens. He's got original the space suits and just all this stuff from all these films. I mean, it's really, you can look Bob Burns up on YouTube as well and look at some of the stuff that he has. I mean, it's amazing. Not just from the Alien films, but lots of other films. So really interesting guy.
We'll definitely put the link to you had sent over both the both parts of the Bob Burns links that you wanted to share, and so we'll put those in the show notes, rashpixel.tv/MWL for this week's episode.
Indeed.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. So to celebrate, everybody go out and watch the trailer for Prometheus one more time. There's a nice, check out the nice big 3-minute trailer.
And the paper version as well.
And the paper version as well. And we will catch up. And so next week, so it opens, what night does it? Is it actually
tomorrow. I don't think there are any midnight screenings.
They're not having a midnight screening tonight, so all right.
I don't think it was. I don't know. It's an R-rated.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I take it back. I'm looking at my local theater, and sure enough, it's showing at midnight.
Oh, so you could still make it.
Maybe I'll sneak out and watch it. Who knows?
Yeah. All right, so we'll catch it this weekend, and we will be talking about it. We'll be talking about it next week on the show.
That sounds great.
All right. Good talk, Andy.
Ciao.
Here at The Next Reel, we've been passionately discussing movies week after week since 2011. That's a lot of movies and a lot of conversation.
Sure is, Pete, and to be honest, it's a lot of work too, but it's work that we love. If you have been enjoying our show, we'd like to remind you that there are ways to support us even if you're not able to become a member just yet. You might have heard us talk about our new watch page where we've listed every movie that we've talked about paired with Amazon or Apple links to rent or buy the movie.
Now we'd like to introduce you to our originals page. Let's take a trip down memory lane, Andy. Do you remember what the first film we discussed on The Next Reel was that was an adaptation?
Well, let's see. It wasn't obviously our Indiana Jones series because those were all original. Then we did Charlie Kaufman. Oh, of course. It was adaptation from Susan Orlean's Orchid Thief.
Exactly. We have covered quite a few adaptations over the years, and now we're providing a way for our listeners to delve into the original source material.
That's right. Just head over to thenextreel.com/originals, and you can see the list of all the adaptations that we have discussed.
From our David Fincher series, featuring The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Social Network, Zodiac, Benjamin Button, and Fight Club.
To our Paranoia trilogy with The Parallax View and All the President's Men, we have covered a variety of adaptations.
Those were some great discussions, especially Fight Club. And let's not forget our baseball series with The Natural and Field of Dreams, adapted from Shoeless Joe.
And Up in the Air and Thank You for Smoking. So many memorable conversations.
Absolutely. And you know what's exciting? Each purchase you make through our links doesn't cost you any extra, but a percentage goes to support The Next Reel and our family of shows.
You can support us while diving deeper into these fantastic stories, whether it's the paper, audiobook, or Kindle version.
We've also included plays and movies. If they were the source, we've put it on there.
So what are you waiting for? Head to thenextreel.com/originals, support The Next Reel, and get your next great read today.
I'm off to reread Fight Club. Now, where did I put my Kindle?